We are about to begin the webinar. Vou dar um oi geral em português, depois um oi geral em inglês, para a gente fazer um webinar bem bilíngue aqui hoje. Na verdade, vai ser em inglês com tradução para português. Guys, for you all attendees, we'll be shifting to English, okay? We'll have an English webinar today with live translation to Portuguese. But we'll wait a couple more minutes before we can start, as some people usually run late. That's natural. That's not a problem at all. But we will have some couple minutes before we begin. Chris, hello, how are you? You're in Mexico today, right? You're talking to Mexican clients today. So,
Yeah, exactly.
hi from Mexico.
Hi from Mexico at a Select
Good, good.
USA event.
Great, great. We will wait for a couple minutes before we begin. Let me quickly shift to Portuguese. Pessoal, a todos que estão aqui, a gente tem hoje, tá? Tradução simultânea para o inglês. Então, no painel de comando de vocês deve ter um globo ali. Por favor, vejam se tem. Nós temos um chat onde eu gostaria que vocês deixassem comentários, etc. Perguntas também, no Q&A. Ok? Então, podem ficar à vontade para mandar perguntas no Q&A. Eu vou passar para inglês, então, com a tradução simultânea. And then we can communicate in English, okay? Guys, just a quick overview on how we can proceed. We have a Q&A box, Q&A option for you guys to send questions to us. Feel free to send questions at any time. We may answer them throughout the presentation or at the end, but we do save some time to answer your questions at the end. We also have a webinar chat where you can chat with us, but please use the Q&A as we have more a capability to answer and interact with you through the Q&A, okay? We'll be conducting the webinar in English with live translation to Portuguese, and we're waiting a few more minutes. We presenters, we cannot hear ourselves, so we don't know how the audio is. Can everybody hear me and see my screen? Please write on the chat or on the Q&A. Can you hear me? Good, good, good. Thumbs up all the way. Good, good, good. Okay, okay. Chris, say hello. Let's see if your audio works well.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Is Chris good?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, good, good. Guys, okie dokie. So we're ready to get started. What's the topic today? We'll be talking about one of the most famous US business visa, the so-called H-1B. H-1B has been all over the news lately, especially after Donald Trump has been elected, and Elon Musk has also been talking about H-1B. H-1B is a very important business visa. You as the employer or you as an employer in the US may use the H-1B. This is a very good and very important tool. For those of you who are looking for jobs in the US, an individual willing to know how to be employed at the H-1B needs to be sponsored by a company. So you'll be talking to your potential employer about the details. So you may benefit from this content, either if you are a company or if you are an individual, okay? So our topic is how the H-1B can be a great tool for you to hire in the US, okay? Important about the H-1B, why are we talking so heavily about H-1B at this moment in time? Because the H-1B has a certain time to be a petition to be requested. So keep an eye on time. Chris and I will be talking about timing to petition. This is a very important topic, and we will explain you. So there is a H-1B season, and we are right now at the very beginning, at the very inception of the H-1B season. Okay, so pay attention, and act fast if you are willing to petition H-1B. That being said, let's get started. Here with me is Chris Costa. Chris is one of our senior immigration attorney, works out of our Miami office. Today he's in Mexico talking to an audience of Mexican clients about H-1B and other visa clients. So he'll be talking directly from Mexico with us. I'll be more like moderating here, and Chris will be running the show with the topics, and I will jump in as needed. Feel free to send questions, okay? We will answer them either throughout the presentation or at the end. So here's a quick agenda. We expect to take 1 hour in the webinar, okay? We may go a little over 1 hour if needed, no problem at all. And here are the topics we're going to cover, okay? Pay attention to the timeline, H-1B process timeline right here. The cap for F1 students as well. Okay, we'll be talking about all these details. So who we are, I can see several people here who are our clients already. So some of you already know us. Some of you already are here on our portfolio and talk to us almost on a daily basis, which is very, very good. But some others do not know us. So we specialize in cross-border transactions. I like to say that we are a one-stop shop firm for soft landing in the US. So companies that are in the process of investing in the US on greenfield or M&A projects. So you're getting started in the US and you need to know the law of the land, how to do business, tax, accounting, legal. We are here to help. Okay, we have more than 15,000 clients served, a team of over 300 professionals. Among these professionals, we have the certified lawyers. Chris and I, we are licensed lawyers in the US. We have licensed CPAs, which are the accountants, and we are tax accountants and tax lawyers working with us as well. We have 4 main line of services, okay? The legal line of service, which I lead that line of services, and within legal, we have the business immigration department. Chris is one of our senior attorneys at the business immigration department. We have accounting, so monthly accounting, consolidation, so forth, where the CPAs work. We have tax services, international tax planning, deliver your tax returns, the company and individuals. And we have the advisory services, mostly focused on startups. 5 offices now: Boston, Miami, Orlando, São Paulo, and Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Some of our clients, we have from small startups to large public traded corporations. So don't mind if you are a small company or a large company, we can serve you. So keep that in mind and count on us. Okay, let's get started. Chris Costa, how are you?
Doing good. Excited to talk about H-1B visas again. So we're in the H-1B season. As background, the H-1B visa is your standard visa for professionals. So, there are many visa types, certain preferential visas for people of certain nationalities, maybe people that are, more experienced and recognized in their industry, can have other options. But for your standard professional, most people, their main option might be the H-1B visa. And for companies in the United States that maybe want to sponsor their employees from their workforce abroad, the H-1B visa would be a good option. There is a lottery, though, which we'll get into in a little bit. So the H-1B visa is a temporary visa. It allows for dual intent, which means, without getting into too much specifics, just that people can pursue permanent residence at the same time as they renew and maintain their temporary status. It requires employer sponsorship. However, recently the government has issued a policy that states that a majority shareholder uh, can actually be the beneficiary of an H-1B visa. Up until now, that had been an area that the government was stricter about. They required an employer-employee relationship, uh, and they didn't really understand that somebody with a controlling interest, could satisfy that. But at this time, they have backtracked on that previous policy. The
Chris,
intent is,
Chris, let me pause you there. Everyone pause now. Right now. This is big news. What Chris just said is extremely important. And let me rephrase. There is a long-standing question that clients have always asked us, which is, can my company, meaning I own the company, can my company sponsor my own H-1B? In other words, can I be a H-1B beneficiary and my company be the petitioner? For a long, 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 long time, the answer was a big no. Now we may have a yes. We have yes in certain cases. That's huge, huge news. Okay. There are some details about this. This has been a very narrow window that has been opened by the government recently, but keep that in mind. This is now possible, and we've been working on this for the past a few months and years. This is new and important. So keep that in mind. If you're an owner and you may qualify for the H-1B under this new policy, okay? Go ahead, Chris, but I would like to, sorry, I
oh,
had
of
to
course.
emphasize this.
Yeah.
This is
And
very, very
yeah,
important.
consistent with other government policies recently, the intent is probably to facilitate immigration for high-tech startup founders. So, there are other areas in which there's a certain incentive. So the H-1B visa is for professionals, which are defined as people that work in certain occupations that normally require at least a bachelor's degree. So beneficiaries should have at least a bachelor's degree relating to their occupation. Uh, the H-1B visa is issued for a maximum of 6 years, initially 3 years, and then can be extended for another 3 years. Uh, Spouses and minor children below 21 can accompany the H-1B beneficiary. Initially, the spouse can't work, but if a green card petition is approved down the line, then the spouse can apply for employment authorization.
Chris, you answered now one of the questions here. Antonio has asked how H-1B works for husband and wife. Do they have permission to work too? Antonio, no. Okay, the spouse does not have it does not have work authorization. What Chris mentioned is down the road, the H-1B will have or may have options to turn into a green card. In that case, the spouse will be able to work after a green card is approved. Okay, the dependent spouse receives H-4 visa, and the H-4 is not eligible to work in the US. Okay. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Yes, so the H-1B visa has a statutory cap of 85,000 visas per year. And as you can imagine, that's way lower than the demand. There've been many, many years now where the demand has exceeded that. So the government has implemented this lottery system that typically occurs around April 1st. After 2020, they revised this lottery system where now only registrations are required rather than like an entire petition. It facilitates the process. So the breakdown of the visa numbers is that 65,000 are for, uh, well, 20,000 are reserved for people with US master's degrees, 65,000 for people that have a bachelor's degree or above. Cap exempt categories. This is I guess, important for companies in certain industries because they're exempt from the cap. They can solicit H-1B visas all year round. These institutions would be universities, uh, nonprofit organizations affiliated with institutions of higher organizations of higher education, commonly hospitals, happens a lot, uh, and nonprofit and government research institutions.
Good, good, good. Guys, let me add important topics about the cap. The cap is something, well, the cap is very important in H-1B, of course. There are 85,000 visas only every year. So Chris will explain later how the cap, how the lottery works for the cap. Basically, if we have 1 million applications, okay, only 85,000 will be selected to be reviewed. If your petition is not selected for review, it's disregarded. It goes to the garbage, okay? It's not even analyzed. The 85,000 analyzed will be either approved or rejected. And of course, if you reject 1,000, you run the lottery again and bring another 1,000 until you fill all the 85,000. That 85K cap is divided into two subcaps. The 65K for those who have bachelor's degree abroad or in the US, and 20,000 for advanced degree or master's degree at US academic institution. Master's degree in the US, okay? Oh, I have an MBA in France, in the UK. It doesn't work. You're going to be under the 65,000 cap, not the 20,000. Then you may think, oh, if I have a master's degree in the US, let's say an MBA from MIT, my chances are lower because I have only 20,000. No, no, no. If you have an MBA from MIT, if you have a master's degree in the US, your chances are much, much higher. Because even though the number available is lower, there are fewer applicants. Okay. In our experience, and this is the experience of every single lawyer in the market, if you have a master's degree, an advanced degree in the US, chances are that you will be selected. Okay, you're gonna run a lottery that's much, much better. It's much more favorable than the 65,000. Okay, and Chris will explain how this system of running the lottery and analyzing the petition has been improved in the last few years. And then, Chris, when was this change, the process of selection? Was 2021 or 2022? Or
I think 2020.
2020?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the way that it works with the lottery is that first they'll select 20,000 among the applications with U.S. master's degrees, and then people with U.S. master's degrees will also participate in the selection of 65,000 regular H-1B visas. So they kind of have two chances, and that increases their odds.
Sounds good. Let me just answer because one question here might not be clear. The 85,000 cap is globally. That's not for Brazilian applicants or Portuguese applicants. No, that's globally. And Anu, I will answer more the other questions from you down the road. He asked who needs to pay and etc. Another important topic about the cap. You are subject to the cap only once, meaning if you are selected and you have an H-1B approved, you may shift, you may move to other employers, okay? Change your H-1B to another employer down the road without being subject to the cap. Let's say you are employed on an IT position by Apple. 2025, Apple files an H-1B for you. You are approved and you start working for Apple. In 2027, you receive a job offer from Amazon. all that Amazon needs to do is to file an H-1B transfer for you, and that petition from Amazon is not subject to the cap. Okay, that's important information for you guys. So if you are an employer considering to hire someone that's already employed in another company on an H-1B, the H-1B cap will not apply to that employee that you are offering a position. Okay? Chris, let's move forward with the other slides.
Mhm.
We have
Yes.
several very interesting questions here, and we will answer them down the road. Okay, the H-1B process.
Okay, so I think we kind of went over the lottery system. Uh, it's random. So now instead of submitting the full petition, it's an electronic registration, much more simple, lower fees, uh, facilitates applications. There have been more applications. What generally happens, I guess, is that US companies, particularly companies that operate globally, they'll kind of determine internally a policy of sponsoring, let's say, 20 individuals for the H-1B per year. Maybe it'll be like, for your high performers, people in certain departments, things like that. Uh, so it's more about repetition, about just, doing this process annually. And, you'll see if somebody is selected. They don't have to move to the US right away. They have 3 years technically. Uh, so, that's kind of how this system works nowadays.
Sounds good. Yeah, and you see 2020, that's when it changed. Let's move forward. Advantage of the electronic process.
Yeah, so faster processing. It's really just a registration. You don't have to submit the full petition like you did before, via FedEx. Obviously not a very efficient process, a lot of waste. So yeah, it's much faster. You know, as attorneys, we really just have to determine eligibility. We don't have to do all the work, which saves everybody time and effort and money. Uh, Reduces costs. Yeah, the costs, there will be a fee for the electronic registration. The government is currently charging $215. They charged $10 up until last year. They increased the electronic registration fee. But in comparison, it's much less than paying for the full petition, which prior to 2020 was uh, the norm. Uh, yeah, the electronic registration process has also been tweaked. Like in the last year, people were kind of gaming the system. Now they're selecting based on beneficiary. So that means that having multiple companies petition for a certain individual won't increase their chances like it did in 2021 and 2022, before the government had fully implemented this process and seen the results. Yeah, there's a higher preference for skilled workers. Yeah, master's degree holders have, I guess, seen a slightly improved chance. They do have a better chance than people with
That's one.
bachelor's and foreign master's degrees.
You guys can see the numbers on what I just mentioned. Um, Guys, let me explain how it was before and how it is now, the differences, because understanding the past, you understand why the environment now is much, much better for fighting in H1B. In the past, the company would hire us to do an H-1B, and we would have to prepare a full petition, everything. Okay, we would have to run a prevailing wage, do all the job determination, the job duties, full package. And of course, that we attorneys would charge the company in full. We would be doing all the work, preparing the package, and then we would send the package for the lottery. And you, the company, already paid the full package, the full fees, which are, high fees. And then what used to happen? Government would run the lottery. Our petition, let's say, was not selected. Garbage. So you, the company, would spend thousands of dollars in legal fees with us attorneys and taking the risk of not even be analyzed. The petition could go to the garbage and you would be wasting money. In 2020, that nonsense process was changed and was changed for much, much, much better. Nowadays, what is done is there is a one step, the first phase, which is the electronic process. The fees, the legal fees, the attorney charges for this process is way, way lower. Okay? It's just this initial stage. Then you take your chances on the initial stage. Okay, the initial step, the first step. We do the electronic process. Then the government runs the lottery. If we are selected in the lottery only after selection, is that we do the heavy lift. Okay, the heavy lift. The legwork of doing all the big and large and time-consuming petition is done after selection. So the first step is quick and is way cheaper than in the past. My point here in the bottom line of this change is take your chances. If you are willing to petition for an employee, if you're willing to be a sponsor, take your chances, do the first step. Guess what? You might be selected and not spend too much money. In the past, we would not say that. We would not give that advice because it would cost you a lot of money to take your chances. Now it does not cost that much money, okay? In legal fees and filing fees. So take your chances, okay? Do the first step. It's always worth it, okay? Okay, Chris, so let's move on.
Yeah.
The timeline.
Okay, so this is your I guess your ideal timeline in terms of planning for the actual registration. So early December, we would advise, identify H-1B needs, discuss strategy, maybe finalize documentation. And, this idea is maybe related to like HR budget, stuff like that. Early December, early January, start doing your planning probably. In terms of documentation, we're not going to need much. We do need evidence that people actually have the academic and professional qualifications. So transcripts, diplomas, transcripts, resumes. Some people might need experience letters. That's maybe like a deeper topic. It's possible to substitute years of education that are lacking with progressive professional experience. People that have foreign degrees, sometimes their degrees aren't evaluated to be directly equivalent to a US degree. Maybe, a 4-year bachelor's degree from a certain country might be evaluated to be equivalent to 3 years of bachelor's degree study in the United States. And it's not determined by the country, it's determined by the academic institution. That's maybe a deeper topic, but it's something that might be something to consider and plan early on. So the registration period this year, for example, is from March 7th to March 24th. We're putting this March 1st to March 20th time period as like the general time period that you'll see on an annual basis, because obviously the days of the week will change, every year. So, the exact dates fluctuate. So the actual lottery will likely occur around March 31st, depending on what day of the week that is. And the results will come shortly after, because this is now an automated process where, we find out the results much faster, which is great.
Good, good. Chris, people that are listening to us now that did not initiate none of this. And guys, this is our standard process for large corporations that we work with. We start talking to these large corporations that are our clients here early December to prepare, to do a planning for the year. But you guys that are listening to us now that have not done this yet, are we still on time, Chris, or they are too late?
No,
They are
we're
late,
still
but
on
not too
time.
late,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we definitely have time, but it's getting to that moment where you have to decide, are you going to do it or not?
And especially because it's a very busy season, right? Don't leave to the last minute, okay, guys? Don't leave to the last minute. We still have time. We're still uh, starting this process, but act quickly, okay? Um, Chris, you talked about the documentation that we start gathering. There's a question here that I think it's worth taking now. What kind of documentation do I need from my employer?
Well, your employer will later, after the petition is selected, have to submit various, financial and yeah, business documentation. Uh, but for the registration, we won't need much. As I mentioned, we'll really just need uh, the beneficiary's resume, diplomas, and transcripts. From the employer's perspective, it would have to be an operating company in the United States with a revenue and at least like one employee, preferably. Uh, but we don't necessarily need evidence of that at this moment. We don't need, your company's tax return, stuff like that. That would be for later after selection.
Okay, okay. Several very interesting questions about H-1B for your own company when you own the company. But I will save those questions later. We have a very interesting topics here to talk. But let me get one question here on employer and employee. The question is, who pays the legal fees for the H-1B? Employer or employee? Does that matter? It does matter, and it is mandatory that the employer pay. Okay? The employer is the one who hires the firm. Okay, so we are hired by the company. The company, we represent the company, and as every other lawyer does, represent the company. So the company is the petitioner. The individual is the beneficiary. The individual does not petition, does not pay the legal fees. It needs to be paid by the employer. Okay. Okay, going forward with the process. So we run the lottery. We have been selected. So what happens?
Yeah, so these are the basic stages. So upon selection, the company will have around June 15th, maybe June 30th, to submit the H-1B petition. They'll have to request the prevailing wage from the Department of Labor. It's done online. Uh, we'll get a response within about a week. That just means that the employer has to pay uh, at least the minimum wage for the occupation in the geographic location based on Department of Labor data. So, with the idea that they're not paying H-1B non-immigrant workers less than U.S. workers. If Pedro alluded to Elon Musk in the news, that's been in the news a lot. The intention of this program is not to undercut U.S. workers' wages. More specifically, this program, I guess, than other visas, because as I mentioned, this is a visa for your standard professional. We'll have to develop the job description, beforehand for registration. We wouldn't necessarily need to get into detail of what the person will do, their role, who they're going to report to, etc. But for the actual petition, we'll have to detail that. We'll have to gather supporting documentation from the employer, uh, not really much from the beneficiary. Uh, yeah, the labor condition application with the Department of Labor is the prevailing wage request. I guess beforehand we would have to determine like the salary, and then we'll have to see if it matches the minimum specified by the Department of Labor. And then we'll submit the petition. Uh, There's the option of paying for a response within 15 business days. It's an additional fee. Uh, it's not totally required, but based on maybe the geographic location of the employer and the estimated processing time of that particular service center, it might be desirable, especially if the employer wants the employee to start on uh, October 1st, which is the first day of the government's fiscal year and the first day in which people can assume H-1B status.
Good, sounds good. Chris, a question here. Question was written in Portuguese, so I will read in Portuguese and then ask you to answer in Portuguese, ok? A pergunta é: uma pessoa que já fez a aplicação para o Green Card EB2 pode ser beneficiária do H-1B?
Sim, no início nós mencionamos que o visto H-1B permite intenção dupla. Então, para certos outros vistos, né, isso pode ser um ponto de atenção, mas não necessariamente, né, para o H-1B.
Ok, você respondeu a Dônia. Foi mandou essa pergunta aí. Okay, guys, so let's move forward. Going forward on the H-1B timeline, we are now in October already. So what happens?
Yeah, so if the person is abroad, then they'll have to obtain a U.S. visa to enter. They'll have to obtain an H-1B visa, and that'll be done at the consulate. They'll also have the opportunity of the employer will have an opportunity of requesting a change of status if the person is in the United States. So in that situation, they would just be able to begin working in H-1B status on October 1st.
So guys, remember, we have an H-1B season for filing and an H-1B starting date. That's why it's so important for companies to plan the fiscal year. Remember, I mentioned that we start planning the H-1B for our clients in December because you have certain timeline, okay? So H-1B needs to be planned ahead. So do your planning. We're here to help on planning as well, not just executing. We work hand in hand with our client to plan here, okay? That's the hard portion. Filing fees, how much do we pay the government? A lot. It's not all at once.
Yes. As I mentioned, the registration fee is $215 per application. The petition fees are only due if selected. So, that's better news now. If the company has over 25 employees, then they'll pay a standard fee of $780. If the company has 25 or less employees, they'll pay $460 for the petition. This also applies to nonprofits. There's an anti-fraud fee of $500. There's this American Competitive Workforce Education Training fee of $750 for small employers, $1,500 for your standard employers. This public law fee of $4,000 only applies to U.S. employers with over 50 employees, where over 50% of them hold H1 or L1 status. The intention is to kind of maybe punish your companies that are relying primarily on the H-1B visa. So oftentimes with Indian consulting companies, that's maybe where this started. There's now asylum fees for all non-immigrant visas, $600 for your standard companies and $300 for your small employers. Then there's the premium processing fee, which was actually updated. It's $2,805 now. That's optional. That's if you want a response in 15 business days. Without the premium processing fee, it might take 4 months to receive a response. Depends on when you want the employee in the US.
Couple comments here, guys. Phase 1 and phase 2, you see Good news here is that phase one has only 215 on filing fees. So the bulk of the fees come only on the phase two. So you will pay more on fees only if selected. That's the first comment I would like to emphasize. Second, that's a very common question. Asylum program fee. I'm not petitioning for asylum. So clients always ask, oh, why do I pay for asylum if I'm not petitioning for asylum? It's just new fees that the government has implemented to finance asylum petitions. So even though we are not talking about asylum, it is correct. We need to pay asylum program fee, even though we are filing for H-1B. So don't be confused. Unfortunately, there are these new fees on asylum. Okay, called asylum program fee.
Yeah, so the H-1B visa is often used for F1 students that might already be working for a US company in OPT. The standard would be that uh, students who completed their US bachelor's degree, recent graduates, would have 1 year of employment. And if they studied a STEM course of education, science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, they would be eligible for a 2 year extension. So they would have 3 years. And this would allow a US employer to enter them in the lottery either once or 3 times. Historically, if they had been entered 3 times, they would have a pretty good chance of selection. Now the odds, might not be as favorable, but, it's still a big benefit. Uh, Oftentimes, employment authorization expires before October 1st. So a big benefit now is that the government has issued policy that would extend employment authorization for people that have been selected in the H-1B lottery. So it's a great news. These people would have to, well, employers would have to file this petition while OPT is still valid or within the 60-day grace period. Immediately after, in which all F1 students have, time to, I guess, be beneficiaries of an employment-based petition or exit the United States. Here now, if this petition has been filed for change of status within that time period and selected, U.S. employment authorization would automatically extend to cover this gap between expiration and October 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, so yes, what we just discussed here, yeah, time period is very important.
Travel.
If
Let's talk about travel. Oh, sorry, Chris, go ahead. Because there are some travel questions here that I would like to cover on this slide, but go ahead first, and then
yeah, I
I'll
was
jump in with
gonna
the questions.
touch on travel since I had already summarized the other information. So yeah, if an application for change of status is still pending, then the F1 student should not travel abroad. That would result in abandonment of the application. So that's definitely a red flag. Even if they have a valid F1 visa stamp, they should not exit the United States yet. After approval, after October 1st, they can exit the United States, and before they exit, they can already have a consular interview set up abroad in their home country to request an H-1B visa stamp. Yeah, so important to keep in mind that that F1 students have to continue working for their US employer to maintain OPT status. They can't be unemployed for more than 90 days. STEM extension, yeah, they'll have an additional 60 days, to request a change of status. That time period still counts. following their OPT. And as we had mentioned, travel is permitted if change of status to H-1B is approved. And then ideally it would be after October 1st, because that's when, they would assume H-1B status.
Good, good, good. Let me elaborate on this travel topic because you answered a question from Eric and another question from Antonio. But let me elaborate to make sure everybody understood. And by the way, Eric, you are pursuing your MBA right now. Most likely that you will, at some point in the future, be under the so-called OPT, which is optional practical training. So this slide is very important for you. So you will spend some time on OPT, okay? Eric and others that are or will be under F1 status. But the question from Eric was, I would like to confirm whether an H-1B visa holder can travel outside the US and return multiple times without any time restrictions. Go ahead, Chris. You H-1B visa holder can travel.
Yeah. The H-1B visa allows for international travel, multiple periods. There aren't any restrictions. With the F1 visa, I guess beneficiaries are a little more constrained because they have to attend classes physically. They have a certain amount of days that they can miss. With the H-1B visa, there aren't these limitations.
Eric, this is different. And when I read your question, I emphasized H-1B visa holder. After you are approved and you do have the H-1B visa, you are H-1B visa holder, you can travel, okay? What the slide is saying is when you are under the change of status, meaning you were an F, we petition for you to change status from F to H-1B. During that period, you cannot travel, okay? So please differentiate the time. After you will have the H-1B, you can travel, okay? And when you are under the change of status, you cannot travel. Antonio has one question here. Chris, I will read and then I try to explain. Here's what I understood. So the question is, can we return to US after October 1st, or is it possible to return earlier? What I understood here is, what Antonio might be asking is, okay, I have the H-1B approved and stamped in my passport, but I can start working only on October 1st. When can I arrive in the US?
Yeah.
If I will start working on October 1st, when can I arrive? Is that the question, Antonio? And Chris, go ahead, answer that, please.
Yeah, you can arrive 10 days before October 1st, but you can only start working on October 1st.
Got it. Good. And Antonio just said yes. Okay, we understood the question. Thanks, Antonio. You're more than welcome. Okay, I think we covered travel and the questions related to travel. Okay, so we are about to finish. We finished the slides, but it's good that we have 10 more minutes because we have very interesting questions. Chris, several questions, and we saved this topic to the end. Several questions about petition, like owners, controlling partners, petition for H-1B. Guys, here's the topic. I own my own company. Can I petition for myself on an H-1B? Not I petition, but let me rephrase. Can the company that I own or can the company that I control petition for an H-1B on to my benefit? Chris, go ahead and please elaborate on the details.
Yeah, so this is a newer scenario, as I had mentioned, but a lot of people have already had success with this situation. It is still required to have an employer-employee relationship, but the government now understands that even if the company is 100% owned by the beneficiary, there can still exist an employer-employee relationship. There would have to be some sort of documentation, about this. Maybe the ideal situation, would be where there's like a board of directors that the beneficiary reports to, that would be a stronger argument in this sense. But the government currently understands that even if the beneficiary owns 100%, there can still be this employer-employee relationship.
Great, great. Guys, bottom line here is that this is under development, okay? So the USCIS, as we petition more and more of these type of cases, and other colleagues do the same, USCIS is improving the understanding of the new policy. So if you are in that scenario, if you have that case, talk to us. We will fine tune the understanding for your case specifically. Let me take one question here that it is similar, but not exactly the same question. Can I own a business in my name while working the H-1B visa? The answer is yes, but hold on. Here's the example. Here's the question. Let's say I work for Apple. I have an H-1B for Apple. But I happen to own a restaurant. Okay, I work for Apple in California and I own a restaurant in Boston. Can I own that restaurant? The answer is yes, you can own a restaurant. You cannot work for that restaurant. Okay? Your work authorization is for Apple and Apple only. So own your business, but make sure you have employees working for your restaurant. You're not going to the restaurant to work. You are not supervising employees there. You're not on a day-to-day to the restaurant. Okay, you're just you're a passive owner at the restaurant. You work for Apple and Apple only. That question came from Jay Lopez. Okay, Jay, did I answer your question? I hope this is clear. Okay, and let me see how we answered Mauricio on ownership. Good question from Enio. If my company is kept exempt, for example, a hospital, and hospitals are kept exempt, do I need to follow the timeline or can I apply at any time of the year?
You can apply at any time. And an important point is that you can also have an H-1B part-time. And you can work part-time for a cap exempt organization and part-time for a non-cap exempt organization. And that would kind of that would allow an H-1B petition at any time for a non-cap exempt organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see here more guys. There are many, and I'm concerned about time, so I'll try to take more general questions that can serve to others as well. Oh, interesting question. Let me see if we can elaborate this. I will rephrase, okay? A company is in the process of being formed in the US, but it's not already formed. Can that company petition, or do we need to wait until the company is fully incorporated?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question and kind of related to the new update regarding startups and beneficiary ownership. Ideally, the H-1B sponsor would already have filed at least one tax return because it's important to show that there's sufficient specialized knowledge, specialty occupation work for the beneficiary, and that's generally shown through business activity revenue. It is possible for totally new companies to sponsor H-1B petitions, maybe with a business plan, but obviously that's a little more complex of a situation, and it would be a little more subjective. In that case, ideally the company would have already started engaging in sales. There would be purchase orders, invoices, etc. Even if the company hasn't yet completed, 1 year of existence and filed an income tax return.
Good.
I would say that the 2 points of beneficiary majority ownership and uh, new companies without revenue are, maybe your two most sensitive and subjective topics regarding H-1B petitions. But now those situations are more possible than they previously were. Probably especially for your high-tech startups. Like I mentioned previously, the government wants those companies here.
Especially because this is an evolving topic, right? This is new. This is evolving. So we'll see how USCIS will consolidate the understanding on the several topics involved.
Mhm.
Guys, we have more questions. I will continue going through, but let me explain the slides here. So on your screen, there's a QR code for our visa guide. Okay, we have a US business visa guide with a lot of content and details about H-1B and several other visas. So if you want to learn about L1, O1, EB1, EB2, EB2 national interest waiver, download this guide, okay? You have very important information there. Here on the screen as well, a QR code with all my business contact. You have my email, you have my LinkedIn. Send messages. We are more than happy to answer them if you don't have time to answer now. Um, be in touch, okay? You can connect with Chris and I, especially on LinkedIn. We're very active on LinkedIn. Just today, I published a important post in EP5. So follow us, and that you will be up to date with new immigration matters. The QR code for Chris, and the email as well. Okay, send us email anytime. We're happy to help. Okay, so let's continue here with the answer with the questions. Um, and Patrick, here's a question. Can a quote friend that owns a company in the US petition for my H-1B? Patrick, remember you must have an employer-employee relationship, okay? So you must maintain independence from your friend. So let's say you have a friend, it's not prohibited to have friends who own companies and who will petition for you. The answer is yes, a friend can own a company, but be careful about this question because you don't want to have a fake relationship. Okay, it needs to be valid, it needs to be legitimate. You need to work there. That friend needs to have work authority over you. That's the employer-employee relationship. Okay. Chris, would you like to add anything on this topic? Because we see these questions on under other angles, right? Can my parent be the employer? Can my husband be the employer? Can my wife be the employer? These are all relationships that can be questionable, right?
Mhm. Yeah, so with the friend, I guess since they aren't family, then it's not immediately a red flag, but there does have to be a bona fide job offer. So, if the friend actually needs a software engineer, with your specific qualifications and, you actually intend to work as a software engineer at your friend's company, then, that's fine. But the situation that might raise a red flag would be, if you don't necessarily have a job offer in the United States and you have a friend that has a company and you ask them to enter you into the H-1B lottery, and then immediately upon being approved, you start looking for work in the US and jump ship to another company. That might be seen as an issue by USCIS.
Good, good. Um, One question here that might benefit others as well, that this comes up very often. How many employees the company must have? In other words, is there a minimum employee number that the petitioner must have?
Mhm. Yeah, there isn't a minimum, but with as with like any non-immigrant and immigrant visa petition with bigger companies just look better. There's more of an understanding that that company is going to have sufficient work for you, and that that company is actively also looking for U.S. labor, so they're not necessarily just relying on the H-1B visa.
Correct. Okay, guys, we are hitting exactly 1 hour of our, our webinar. Topic, as I mentioned, it's all over the news after Donald Trump and Elon Musk started talking about it. But H-1B is not new at all. H-1B has been used as a very important tool by US employers. It is a very useful tool. Keep that in mind. Put the H-1B on your toolbox to be used in 2025 or in 2026. Again, 2025, you are not too late to get started. You are still on time, but act quickly. We're here to help. Send us questions. We're happy to help you guys with your immigration needs. Last but not least, let me shift to Portuguese to thank you all. Chris, muito obrigado. Foi muito bom. Acho que a gente cobriu. Ainda temos muitas perguntas, tá, gente? São perguntas interessantes, mas que eu fui deixando um pouquinho de lado para a gente responder aquelas que pudessem ser mais genéricas o suficiente para beneficiar a todos e a gente, para quem a gente está falando. Chris e eu estamos super disponíveis. Eu passei os QR Codes. Chris, muito obrigado. Valeu. Última dica aí para o pessoal que está conhecendo o H1B agora ou está precisando mover para fazer uma petição de H1B?
Foi ótimo, né, a apresentação. Né, minha dica para empregadores nos Estados Unidos, né, seria, né, seja constante, né, tenha tipo uma política, né, para patrocínio anualmente, né, já que é uma loteria, não tem, né, tanta certeza assim de seleção, de quem vai ser selecionada, então é uma questão, né, de selecionar idealmente múltiplas pessoas, né, todo ano, aí ver, né, tipo, requer planejamento e né, tempo para você, né, talvez aos poucos, né, desenvolver uma equipe aqui nos Estados Unidos composta por, né, certos ah, profissionais, né, no exterior. E minha dica para beneficiários, né, também faça conexões aqui nos Estados Unidos, né? Se você talvez não tem oportunidade, né, de outros vistos, está mais no início da sua carreira, talvez o visto H-1B vai ser a sua melhor oportunidade, né? Tem a loteria, mas, né, faça suas conexões aqui e, né, vai tentando anualmente.
É isso aí. Pessoal, muitíssimo obrigado. Thank you very much to you all. I hope we added value to you. Important content. Hope that helped. Chris, thanks a lot. Have a safe travels back to Miami. Okay, my friend.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. Thank you,
Bye
everyone.
bye.
Bye bye.